Hey guys, Horror Boy 465 here, Explorer of Horror, and today things are going to get interesting because today we're talking about the very first sequel to The Crow, and that is The Crow City of Angels. Now, The Crow City of Angels came out in 1996. It's a 4.6 on IMDb, and this is a movie that a lot of people don't like. Even most of the Crow fans don't like this one, or most of the sequels. Honestly, I only don't like the fourth movie. I'll be honest with you guys. Do I think it was necessary to have sequels? No. Do I think the original movie needed a sequel at all? No. But since we do have sequels, checking them out, I rewatched the first three movies, and I don't know why, but I'm a really big fan of that poster. It's pretty cool. But yeah, got DVD. DVD is pretty bare bones. I mean, you do have some stuff. You got a commentary. You got behind the scenes featurette. I mean, you do have that. You do have production and costume design featurette. They actually gave it a decent amount of features. It's not bare bones at all. Actually, it does have some pretty decent features. I stand corrected. But screenplay, viewer and novelization, production, art gallery, web link, stuff like that. Also, digital surround sound, blase blase. The Crow City of Angels is a movie that a lot of people don't like, as well as just the rest of the sequels. But although I do think this is an unnecessary movie, I do really enjoy it. And not only do I enjoy it just because of what it could have been, but I just in general enjoy the movie. Now, I know that for a lot of people, their main problem with this movie is that it is very similar to the first movie. I understand this, and I do see this, because the thing with the Crow sequels is that most of them, not all of them, but most of them were not supposed to be complete rip-offs of the previous movie, of the first movie. Actually, most of them were trying to do their own thing, but studios got involved and ended up making the movies more like the first movie. So really, especially this one. This is the one that I know most of the behind-the-scenes stuff with. Like I said, it came out in 1996 as a 4.6 on IMDb. Directed by Tim Pope, who did music videos before this. I'm not really sure what he did after this, but I know that he was doing music videos before this. Now, I'm not gonna dog a music video director because I'm actually a fan of Marcus Nispel, which I know a lot of people aren't. I'm not a fan of his most recent stuff, but I'm a fan of Chainsaw Massacre, the Friday the 13th remake. Those are both movies I really enjoy. Yes, I enjoy them. I know I'm loco, but I enjoy those movies. I think Marcus Nispel was doing music videos before he became director. I think. I can never remember his name, but it's the guy who directed Nightmare on Elm Street 4. Rennie Harlin, I think, is his name. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think his name is Rennie Harlin. I think he did music videos before he became an actual director. I think he did. But I'm not going to dog out the director just because he did music videos. I hear that a lot in a lot of reviews. People run, they did music videos. I'm like, as long as he did a good job with this movie, with the mood, with the direction, the lighting, the camera work, which I thought was all nailed in this movie, and acting, which I thought was pretty good in this movie as well. Not the best acting. There are a few actors in the movie that, kind of missed the mark, but for the most part, the acting is actually pretty decent. And is the movie nearly as good as the first movie? No. Do I think it's an important sequel? Not really. But if you look at it as just for what it is a film. It has been made. It shouldn't have been made, but it has been made. I'm going to judge it by what I see. And what I saw was honestly pretty decent and pretty fun. For me, this movie is an hour and 24 minutes, so it's a very fast-paced movie. The storyline is pretty much about Ash, this guy who I think his girlfriend or his wife or whatever was on drugs. So he had pretty much taken custody of their son Danny, and one of these days, him and Danny witness a crime, And of course, the bad guys like leading the witnesses, so they pretty much kill Ash and Danny. You also got Sarah coming back in this movie, which, yes, I do like that idea. I like the idea of Sarah being brought back. Granted, I don't like what happened to her at the end of the movie, which I'll get to. But I do like the idea of them bringing Sarah back. I know. But Sarah's back in this movie. She kind of knows about someone who's died, and she finds that it was Ash. And pretty much, as you guys know, it is a Crow movie, so Ash is brought back from the dead. And it's a really good scene, too. I like where he's in the water, he's getting flashes of the crime, and then he wakes up and just shoots out of the water. And the way the shot's done, it's a very, I think, good moment for the movie, is when he just shoots out of the water like that. So I really like that shot. And he kind of passes out, wakes up. Sarah has him back at her house, and she's telling him that he's dead. And he flips out and he runs, and he finds this sort of garage where him and his son were last at. And he finds this little picture that his son drew. And then Sarah goes there, and you have a really good moment where she tells him, like, you know, what are you going to do? And he's like, I must make them pay. And then you had the moment where she's painting the Crow stuff on his face. It's definitely more of a different take on the whole Crow transformation scene, which at least did rip off the first movie where he just went to a mirror and just tried to do the makeup again. Here it's like it's more subtle. She just put on the makeup, and you know, when the makeup's on, he gets the coat. And in this movie, they introduce a motorcycle, which I think is a really good idea for the Crow figure. And I know that they designed the jacket to where it has these two flaps on like crow wings. That was a nice touch as well. And basically, he goes after the people who killed him and his son, kills them off one by one. I'll get into more details about those scenes in a minute. But the plot is that he goes after them, kills them off, gets to the main bad guy, Judah Earl. And kind of like the first movie where Judah Earl kills the Crow and he loses powers, only in this one, Judah Earl, kind of this main bad guy, drinks the blood of the Crow, does, I guess, his own version of the Crow makeup, and gets the powers of the Crow. And the movie ends really stupidly. Like, granted, the scene is done very well. I mean, there's this giant party going on. I think you have, what is it? Deftones that are playing? I think it was the first like time Deftones was ever like playing music. I think it was before they released their first album. So you have that music going on. It's a very good scene, very well shot scene. And he goes there and he's climbing this boat to get to Judah Earl, and of course Judah Earl kills the Crow. But my problem with this ending is that basically Judah Earl can't be killed, so Sarah is trying to save Ash from being hung. He's getting ready to be hung pretty much out in the middle of the street. And she stabs Judah Earl, and then Judah Earl stabs Sarah and kills Sarah. And I'm like, really? I wish they could have brought Sarah back and kind of, I don't know, I guess use her better. You know, keep her alive, and maybe she can be a character that pops up throughout the series. If you're going to make sequels after this, which I don't know if they were going to make sequels after this. I know the director's cut had a different ending. The original director's cut had a different ending that maybe would make sequels to this movie. But if you're going to make sequels, I would keep the Sarah character alive so she could keep popping back up to the series. She could become a very important character in the series. But the fact that she gets killed off in this movie, I just am not a fan of. And also, at the end of this movie, Ash doesn't have any powers, but it's this really stupid idea where he says, "Pain is my power." And then he screams, "Take him!" And these CGI crows come through. And I guess the original idea was that Judah Earl was supposed to get pecked to like a skeleton. It's supposed to be really gory death scene for Judah Earl. But in this cut, it's like they fly through Ash and CGI, and they just fly through Judah Earl, and he just kind of fades out. He doesn't even die. He just kind of fades out. It's like, what the freak happened there? And then the very ending is when we find out that Ash finds Sarah dead, He sees his son Danny, and he pretty much goes with his son Danny to the afterlife. Now, discussing that plot line, I know people are like, well, it's pretty similar to the first movie. But I think that, yes, this cut of the film does have a lot of similarities to the first film, especially this cut. I so wish that the director's cut, the so-called director's cut, it's really not a director's cut, but I do wish that this was an actual director's cut because, excuse me, the original director's cut of this film by Tim Pope was, I think, 3 hours long. And sorry about that. For some reason I just can't talk. But I think the original director's cut that Tim Pope had made was, I think, over 3 hours long. And I know that some people are like, oh, come on, that's ridiculous, that's horrible. But I think that time, if used well, could have built these characters up a lot better, could have explained a lot more stuff. And the thing is, I think Tim Pope and the writer, I think David S. Goyer came back to do the writing of this movie, as well as the score. The score is done by the same person as well, which I really enjoy the score as well, but I enjoy the soundtrack. But we'll get into those things in a minute. But Tim Pope's direction was to not copy the first movie. He even said that they put out this thing where they asked fans what they would want to see. And the fans said, as long as you respect the first movie and respect Brandon Lee, then we'll be fine with the sequel. And Tim Pope said, okay. He wrote this script, went out and shot a 3-hour-long movie, which I think would help this movie out a lot. I think that if that original cut was released, this movie would be 1,000 times better. I really do. And it's sad that underneath this kind of pretty decent, pretty fun, pretty honestly, in my opinion, pretty good movie, is an even better movie that we could have gotten. And it was supposed to have more stuff with him and Sarah, have a cool dynamic where him and Sarah maybe have this, because he can't have the relationship with her because, you know, he's dead, he has to go back to the afterlife, and they touch on that a little bit in this cut, but not to the extent I guess they did in the director's cut, the actual director's cut. And so they explored that a little bit more. They explored a little bit more between Ash and his son. They did stuff differently to not copy the first movie. It was a much more slower paced movie. And unfortunately, Harvey freaking Weinstein got involved with the film. It's already bad news, because if Harvey Weinstein gets involved, it's bad news. But Harvey Weinstein got involved and pretty much said, oh no, this movie's too different, we gotta make it more like the first movie. Kind of reminds me of Exorcist 3, how the original cut didn't have an exorcism in it, but the studio's like, well, it's The Exorcist, we should have an exorcism scene. Now, granted, the exorcism scene I thought was, you know, a pretty good touch, because the original ending was supposed to be much more anticlimactic than that, but still, studio interference. In this movie, Harvey Weinstein had hours cut from this movie, footage just missing, and it makes the movie's flow very chunky. There's times where there's a lot of fast cutting and stuff that, you know, you can tell was obviously cut, you know. And some of the problems of the movie is that, you know, I'm not really a big fan of Judah Earl. I just think that he's a generic bad guy. However, I do like the sort of misfit, I guess, group of people that work for him, these criminals. I enjoy Curve, who is Iggy Pop, Spider Monkey, this guy who's all tweaked out on drugs, Nemo, this guy who has this, like, kind of, I don't know, like, 80s glam rock wig, and he looks like a totally 80s glam rock kind of person, who's actually played by Thomas Jane, which is pretty crazy as in this movie. So Nemo's a pretty wild character. Spider Monkey's a pretty wild character. What was her name? Kali. She's pretty much the Asian chick who can, you know, knows how to fight and stuff like that. And Kali's the one who took Danny's life. So in the original cut, the fight scene between Ash and Kali was supposed to be this very epic, long battle. I think it was like 20 or 30 minutes long. It was supposed to be this really long battle scene, really epic and awesome. But in this version, they butchered it. It's just horrible. The choreography looks like just trash. I'll be honest with that. That scene's choreography is like probably one of the worst fight scenes in the series. Now, granted, The Crow 4 Wicked Prayer has freaking like 1,000 times more worse fight scene. Like pretty much every fight scene in The Crow Wicked Prayer is like that. It just sucks. But in this movie, you do have some good scenes that I really do like. I like when he's chasing Curve and he jumps out on the car and the car breaks and he gets on a motorcycle and that chase scene is really awesome. There's a lot of great scenes I'll talk about in a second. But first of all, the cast. Like I said, Iggy Pop was great. The Misfit gang kind of criminals was pretty cool. I'm actually a really big fan of Vincent Perez as the Crow in this movie. Now, granted, Brandon Lee did a phenomenal job that I don't think anybody else in this series has topped, and I don't think anybody will ever top. But Vincent Perez brought a different thing to his character. You know, he kind of moved like a crow, kind of like, you know, cocked his head like a crow, looked at people like he was a crow. Very intense performance. He actually had a lot more fun, you know, a lot more of a light humor, darker humor type of crow, you know, because there's this one scene where he's talking to Spider Monkey. He's like, pick a card, monkey, come on. And Lady Luck's a bitch. And he throws the cards at the guy. Or when he's on top of these barrels, he's like, I am all your worst nightmares rolled into one. And some people have said that it kind of reminds him of kind of like a play, kind of like a darker, grimmer version of a play is what Vincent Perez brings, kind of like a performance you would see in a play. And I definitely see that, and I think it's a good addition to the movie. It gives us something different. The scene where he's talking to Curve, and he's like, wrong place, wrong time. Hey, Curve. And you have that scene where he shoots the motorcycle and blows it up. That's another thing. The death scenes are actually pretty cool in this movie. Spider Monkey gets exploded in this drug lab. Nemo gets his eyes gouged out. And you even have a scene later on where Curve finds an origami crow in his mouth. And I like how Vincent Perez calls him. You see the blood on his thumb. He's like, hey, Curve. You know what they call you know what they call a, kind of messed it up, but you know what they call a group of crows? A murder of crows. Think about it. I like that scene. I can't do Vincent Perez's dialogue in this movie. I mean, I thought he did great. I don't really understand all the hate for the character. I think it's because, you know, once again, the studio not shot certain scenes, but made Tim Pope put certain scenes in the movie to make him more similar to Brandon Lee. Like how in the original movie there's a shootout scene where Brandon Lee is getting shot and he's like showing his powers. In this scene, there's a scene in this movie where that happens. But the movie, like, I think, okay, let's go over the good things. I think it has pretty good characters. I like the Ash character, the Danny character, the Sarah character, the Misfit group of criminals. Just not a really big fan of Judah Earl. But I like Vincent Perez's portrayal of the Crow character in this movie. It's very unique and very his own. I love the way the movie looks. It has this kind of worn down yellow look to it. What some people say it's like a piss yellow look. I know it's yellow, so you would think it's piss, but it's not really a piss yellow. I think it's kind of like I guess say like worn down and a rotten yellow that really brings the City of Angels to like this decayed look. And I think it looks great. And I like how in this movie, instead of using rain, they use mist. So there's a lot of fog, there's broken glass all over the street, there's, you know, destroyed streets, destroyed alleyways, the city is complete chaos. I like the tagline, City of Angels. The death scenes are pretty cool. Like I said, Curve's death scene, Nemo's death scene, Spider Monkey's death scene, um, as well as Kali's death scene, where he grabs the baby doll. It's like, hush, little baby, don't say a word. Daddy's gonna buy you a big black bird. Throws her out the window. Boom. I love the score. It kind of has this creepy, ominous kind of symphony score. It's like an opera symphony score. It's very dark and brooding, though. I like most of the action. I think most of the action is pretty good. The bad guys are good bad guys, except for Judah Earl. That's the only bad guy I didn't really care for. But the rest of them are actually really good bad guys. You did not like these characters because of how evil and sadistic they were and how freaking lost and gone they were in drugs. And also, I like the idea that Judah Earl kind of has this drug that he's, pretty much invaded this town. He's pretty much the king of the City of Angels because this drug is just running the streets. There are certain scenes that I really enjoy. Like, I enjoy the scene where I enjoy most of the scenes between Ash and Sarah. They're very good scenes, very good dialogue. I also like this scene really well. It's a very good scene where Vincent Perez finds this girl and she's on drugs. And he goes down, picks up the drug packet. He's like, how old are you? Or he says, there is another way, or something like that. The dialogue there is great. And then he makes it turn the fire. And she's like, oh, how did you do that? He's like, magic. He's like, and he tells her to blow the ashes. He's like, quick, like birthday candles. And I know it sounds cheesy, me doing it with the accent and everything, but watch the scene. It's a good scene. It's a very iconic scene for the film. I like that scene. I like the scene where Ash gets his son out of the water and buries him in his grave. I like the scene where he's killing Nemo, and he's like, 1 crow, sorrow, 2 crows, blah. I can't remember it, but 3 crows, ah. I just can't remember the dialogue, but he's like taking a shotgun, 4 crows, and he's just like counting up to I think 7 or 8 crows. I can't remember the dialogue 100%, but I really enjoyed that scene. Geez, what else? Good soundtrack. I really enjoy the music. I like the look of the film. I think I already mentioned that. But it does have good cinematography. It has good direction. That's what I mean. This movie has a lot of great things to it. Now, to get into the bad things, Judah Earl is a horrible bad guy. Judah Earl's death scene is terrible. The ending sucks to this movie. It sucks. Which, it sucks so bad that I'm freaking burping talking about it. But I guess the original ending was Ash didn't go back to the afterlife, and he took Sarah's body to the chapel, and he pretty much says, this city is full of evil. One more shadow won't make it more worse, or something like that. And basically Ash is to wander the earth, immortal, forever, I guess. Which I guess that originally anyone's supposed to have some sequels, but I don't know. That never really happened, so. But the ending sucked. There's a lot of just stupid crow symbol. You know how in the first movie, Brandon Lee, when he killed someone, he would make a crow logo, or a calling card, a crow calling card out of the fire, out of the knives. So many cool ways to do it. In this movie, the first time you see it, it's out of broken glass. I'm like, okay, whatever. Then they start doing this stupid stuff. Like, this girl, Kali, she bleeds, and the blood is in the shape of a crow. I'm like, how the freak? And there's this one scene where Iggy Pop's death scene, where he's in the water, and there's flowers around him, and they form the crow. I'm like, really? That kind of stuff was, kind of lame, seeing that stuff. Like I said, a couple of them are pretty decent ideas, like Curve finding the origami crow, the glass in the shape of a crow. That stuff I didn't mind, but the flowers and the blood, they did the whole blood thing better in Salvation, which I'll get to. But Yeah, that stuff was pretty bad. It is very similar to the first movie. Sadly, it is. And I just think that because of it being so incomplete, not incomplete, but so involved with the studio, it just kind of downplays the movie. It really does. It makes the movie less than what it should be. And it should be just a great, fantastic watch. But it really isn't because the studio got involved. It's a shame. But yeah, I like certain scenes in the movie. Vincent Perez is great in the movie. Has a great score. Honestly, if I would say this, I'm a pretty big fan of The Crow City of Angels. I really don't get all the hate. And this movie would have been 1,000 times better if Harvey Weinstein didn't get involved with it and the freaking studio didn't decide to get involved with it and make it like the first movie. But for what it is, it's a pretty decent movie. It's actually, I'll take that back. It's pretty good. I actually really enjoy it. Big fan of it, and I think it's pretty good for what it is. But hopefully, one of these days, we can actually see the actual cut of this movie. I don't know if we'll ever see that because I heard the footage is gone. But I guess I can still hope. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching my review on the Crow City of Angels. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the review. And I'll see you guys on the next review. The Explorer of Horror is out. See you guys later. Peace.